Good evening to all, and thank you for your time tonight. First of all, I would like to welcome our Year 8 pupils and all of you parents and carers who are so vital to their education. Let me begin by recognising that we are on the Kaurna people's ancestral grounds. I honour the current and former Kaurna elders and acknowledge their enduring ties to the land, the seas, and the community. I also would like to extend my respect to all of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are with us today. Let me begin by asking you to imagine a world without electricity, with no modern medicine, or no democracy. Imagine navigating the world without a GPS or attempting to survive a global pandemic with practically zero medical knowledge. History immerses us in these worlds and teaches students how societies surmounted hardships, developed solutions, and laid the groundwork for the modern age. Tonight, I want to give you a clear outline of what Year 8 HAS is all about, why it's so important for your children's future, what kinds of knowledge and skills will they acquire, how the Australian curriculum is structured, and how we, as teachers, will be assisting, challenging, and assessing them all year long. Upon completion of this presentation, I hope you will have a solid knowledge of not just the subject your child will be learning, but also its significance and how it will help them become critical, thinking, and active members of society. Why study HAS? HAS stands for Humanities and Social Sciences. These include history, geography, civics and citizenship, and economics and business. HAS education is deliberately and strongly applicable to youth's lives. Explained by the recent research of Tudball et al., HAS enables pupils a chance to comprehend identities, beliefs, and attitudes that lie within and outside of their own communities. It enhances their ability to think morally, solve issues, ask probing questions, and communicate clearly. Most importantly, it gives them the ability to adjust to an ever-changing and rapidly adjusting world. From the earliest years, the curriculum is structured on linking history, geography, civics, and economics with students' own lived experiences. Year 1 learners, for instance, reflect on how the environment has changed throughout time and how it may change in the future. According to Tudball et al., this kind of inquiry fosters curiosity and creativity, two dispositions that support lifelong learning, as well as a sense of identity and belonging. By the time students reach secondary school, HAS looks at complex national and international debates in addition to those that are both personal and local. The topic of rights and obligations in particular takes centre stage. Students that study the historical denial of rights to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples practice critical citizenship skills in addition to engaging with equity and justice problems. Therefore, HAS offers the subject matter expertise and moral compass needed to tackle ongoing challenges in Australia and across the globe. This justification is in line with the Alice Springs Education Declaration from 2019, which places a high priority on fostering in young people the ability to study well, be confident and creative, and become active and informed citizens. In the Australian curriculum, HAS aims to ensure that students acquire an extensive knowledge of both the past and present, the ability to critically evaluate and challenge sources and perspectives, and abilities to successfully engage in social, civic, and economic life, and finally, a knowledgeable understanding of their place in a democratic society. Tonight, we will explore the ways in which your learners will achieve these objectives throughout our HAS course. Students in Year 8 study history from the end of the ancient to the dawn of the modern era. This period saw major cultures come into contact, and social, political, religious, and economic beliefs, which are all the cornerstones of the modern world, were frequently contested and changed. In history, students study at least one topic from the medieval Europe and the early modern world substrand, and at least one topic from empires and expansions or the Asia-Pacific world. For example, in my classroom this semester, your students are going to investigate two fascinating societies from the past. Now I'd like to take the opportunity to imagine two drastically different societies, separated by hundreds of years and thousands of kilometers apart. One resided in the islands of Japan, engulfed by mountains, while the other endured across the chilly, stormy north of Europe. Both cultures left a trail of artifacts that provide us with insights into their cultures, morals, and beliefs. I would now invite you to look at this weapon and ponder the question, what do you suppose its purpose was, and who may have carried it? As you may have guessed, it was used for battle, and you would be right. It was an extremely practical piece of equipment. Viking axes were multi-purpose weapons that could be used for daily chores, raiding, and combat. This weapon tells us uncovered stories about their society. The Vikings valued skill, resourcefulness, and practicality in both daily life and combat. Let's now contrast it with this katana used by the Japanese samurai. Take a moment to reflect on any differences you may notice. The katana, unlike the Vikings' axe, was not only a tool for battle, but also a reflection of status, honor, and identity. Its design is extremely refined for accuracy and elegance, and samurai endured rigorous training to master it. The katana indicates that Japanese society placed a high value on hierarchy, discipline, and individual talent. Combining these two weapons allows us to observe how different civilizations approach similar issues. Where samurai blended practicality with authority and symbolism, Vikings prioritized adaptability and simplicity. This is exactly the type of investigation your children will conduct throughout Year 8 history. They will study relics, pose inquiries, and uncover the stories that ancient artifacts, records, and history can tell us about society, values, and everyday human existence. According to the Australian Curriculum's Year 8 History Achievement Standards, students are expected to be able to explain cause and effect, describe important people and events, and understand how societies have changed over time. To put it simply, they learn how to think like historians, which includes analysing patterns, comparing viewpoints, and supporting their arguments with evidence. Students will thus be learning the histories of these societies, just as we have today, gaining knowledge that will help them comprehend the past and how it has affected the present. And here is an example of just two of the many questions students may pose and investigate across both topics. What were the main systems, values, and beliefs of these cultures, and how did they operate? And which structures, beliefs, or behaviours from these cultures still have an impact on society today? Combining the study of these two cultures will provide students a deeper knowledge of how humans structured communities and shaped the world today. These questions, alongside the comparative task we looked at earlier, align with the Australian curriculum skills acquired in History of Year 8. Now you may be thinking, what skills will my child acquire throughout Year 8 history? Aligned with the Australian curriculum, through questions such as these, learners will gain critical historical skills. They will be able to develop historical questions, so students will develop the ability to construct their own insightful questions which guide their investigation and study. Source analysis. They examine both primary and secondary sources, including documents, maps, artifacts, and photographs, and assess what their content can tell us about society and day-to-day existence. Comparing and evaluating perspectives. Students will acknowledge that historical events were experienced differently across individuals in various social, political, and cultural contexts. Explaining cause and effect. They connect ideas, societal shifts, and events to their consequences. Communicating findings. Students use written assignments, presentations, timelines, or creative projects to demonstrate their understanding, providing evidence that backs up the statements they make. Students gain a toolset for critical thinking and historical reasoning from these abilities, perfectly aligned with the Australian Curriculum's Year 8 History Achievement Standards. Inquiry-based questioning and source analysis is one of the key means by which 8th grade history students demonstrate what they've learned. In order to discover what may be learned about earlier societies, students analyse a variety of primary and secondary sources, including artifacts, photographs, maps, and historical records. For example, they might look at a picture of a Japanese castle or a Viking longship design and ask questions such as, what does this structure tell us about the society or social hierarchy from this time period? What type of person would have lived here or worked here, and why? In order to develop a more complete understanding of history, students are supported in analysing the authenticity, purpose, and reliability of the sources, as well as comparing different kinds of evidence. This builds their capacity to evaluate data critically, decipher meaning, and relate evidence to broader historical concepts. In correlation with the Australian curriculum, students are not only gaining knowledge of certain historical events and practices, but also developing the capacity to carry out independent research, make judgments, and effectively express their ideas throughout this process, all in ways that are meaningful, engaging, and relevant to understanding the world today. In conclusion, throughout Year 8 HASS, your learners will investigate the past to get a greater appreciation for the present, developing the skills to think critically, pose questions, and engage in society as responsible, educated citizens. Thank you all for joining us tonight and for supporting your children on their path of discovery and growth.